Hey everybody. Well, I hope y'all are doing good this evening. I'm fantastic. Probably thinking, man, he done went and ripped the foam out of his life jacket or something. What in the world he's got going on right there? But I know some of you know what's going on right here. Well, this week, I've been looking for something. Hold on, let's back up a little bit. So I've been looking for something that we used to use all the time back in the day, and I ain't been able to find one, but someday I will. But this week, I was working on a tile job and I saw this hunk of foam in the dumpster. And I was like, ooh, that's just like that stuff I'm looking for. This tackle storage system that I used to use all the time, that we all used back in the day. I'm gonna make me a pork frog holder out of that. So back in the day, you could buy these. You know, if you jig fished back in the day, you had pork frogs, and usually quite a few. It wasn't like you didn't just have one jar. It was like any other piece of plastic, or anything we do nowadays. You had all colors, and they made a lot of different sizes. The chunks come in 4 different sizes and 2 different sizes of spring lizard, and you had the ripple rind and the all kinds of twin tail eel, all kinds of stuff. So you had to have a way to kind of organize that stuff and carry it in your boat. And this is it. You see, we used to keep these in our boat just like you kept a tackle box for putting your pork frogs in. And your jars just slide right in there. So I got home and I got my hole saw out and I got my razor knife out and I fabbed this sucker up right here. I'm super stoked about this. It's just so reminiscent of the old days. You'd fill that thing all up with these jars. You might have 2 or 3 of these in your boat, just like we carried 2 or 3 boxes of worms. One might have spring lizards, and one might just be chunks, and just who knows what. Or you might have some for certain times of the year, just like we do nowadays with this stuff. It was all pork frogs in one of these foam holders. I think the ones we used to get held 12 jars. Now this one I made, it turned out pretty good for kind of being a hack job. But boy, it's the same stuff. I'm so excited. I bet any of y'all ever have one of these, or 2 or 3 of them that you kept your pork frogs in back in the day? Used to, right there in front of the console, we'd have a jig box lined up and a box with worm hooks and worms, and then you might have a couple of these stacked in there. It's just how you did it back in the day right there. Getting ready to go bull Shoals here in a couple of days. Gonna fish a couple 3 nights over there, and I'd had a few jars rolling around the boat. Now I got this thing all fixed up. It's gonna be really reminiscent of the back of my past, going over there as a kid, having this thing sitting around in the boat with those pork frogs and kind of smelling that old pork frog smell. I'm gonna fish one a bunch this week, just for old time's sake. Probably gonna get you a lot of stories over there. Got a lot of old history over there as a kid growing up, and I'm gonna tell you some stories for this week's over from over there. Hopefully on the water. That place is heaven. It's one of my most favorite places on the earth. Maybe my most favorite place on earth. And man, I've drowned a many pork frog over there. So y'all be looking forward to that. And if any of y'all have any one of them old holders that's piled up in your garage somewhere, you don't know what you're gonna do with it, let me know. I'd be pretty interested in it. I need an original one. But this one's pretty cool. Pork frogs. Well, they were a big deal at one time. Like, just as important as any other piece of tackle. You had to have a way to store it and carry it, and this is it. So, we'll see y'all bull shows this week. If you ain't getting out and going fishing, it'll be full moon, night fishing. You know, that's another thing. Been doing a little bit of night fishing here lately, and everybody talks of, nobody goes anymore. And I'll tell you, I've been out a couple of times here lately on beaver, and I'll tell you what. Don't let anybody tell you, but there ain't nobody out there. There ain't no ski boats. Very, very few bass fishermen. Pretty quiet, pretty peaceful. Little moon shining. Don't forget how fun that night fishing is. Creep out there, go have you some fun this late summertime. You can catch some bass. If nothing else, have probably one of the most peaceful, wonderful times you could possibly have. And that's what I'm going to do this weekend for 3 nights in a row. It's going to be a blast.